Hi, hello, and welcome back to the HII Method. My name is Jen Hatz. I am the host of the HII Method podcast and also the founder of the HII Method, a holistic, integrative, and innovative approach to assessing and optimizing human health, well-being, and performance. And I'm partnered with Neuroforce One, a human performance company that has been training champions for years, and they offer training and assessments in their facility as well as remote options available. And I mentioned on the last episode that it's wintertime here and gave a little teaser there that I love winter. The reason why I love winter, well, there's a number of reasons why I love winter, but I was always a winter sport person. So fun little story for you here. So I, as much as I absolutely love sports in general, I never played team sports. I was always an individual, just living my own, marching the beat of my own drum or living my own life, doing my own thing. So I was always an individual kind of athlete. But as a kid, and especially within like winter sports, for whatever reason, I just gravitated towards winter sports. And so as a kid, I was a figure skater. I was a competitive figure skater. And that was my thing. That was my absolute bread and butter. I loved that sport to this day. I love that sport. There's something about it that is so like subliminally difficult and challenging. People don't realize how difficult that sport is, but it looks so effortless. And that's, I think, the beauty of it. But so cannot say enough how much I love that sport. Still to this day, I love that sport. But so as a kid, I was a competitive figure skater. And I say competitive, I mean, I competed, but I didn't love the competition aspect of things because it's an individual sport. And so when you're competing, you're competing against yourself, yeah, but then you're also being judged directly against other people who are also competing against themselves. And so it messes with your head quite a bit, I would say, especially when you're young. And that is probably true of any of those sports like gymnastics, for instance, or any of those sports where it is a competition. You're competing against yourself, but you're also being judged directly against other people who are also competing against themselves. And so I think for the sake of youth athletics and young minds in general, that there's a little bit of conflicting, thoughts and concepts there of what kind of where you want to push someone towards a little bit. But I am a big proponent in general of youth sports and what that can do for you as an individual and just to help grow and mature how you view yourself and what you're capable of doing. So yeah, big fan of that. Big fan of the fact that I had that experience as a figure skater. However it was that I came upon it, I can't even, I don't know at what point in time I had the idea in my head of I want to do that. But for whatever reason, it just stuck and it was my thing and I absolutely loved it. And so as a kid, like I said, I wasn't really into the competition side of things. I don't like being judged directly against other people, but I loved the shows and I loved skating in shows and I loved being able to just entertain a crowd. And so my childhood dream back then, so other competitive skaters, their dream was I want to go to the Olympics. I want to, be competitive and go to the Olympics. And I was like, I want to be a show skater. I want to travel the world on a cruise ship, part of the entertainment staff, or I want to live in Vegas and do like shows. I wanted to be, basically my childhood dream was the movie Showgirls, but a figure skating version of that. So if you've never seen that movie, go watch it and then don't judge me about the fact that was my childhood dream of a figure skating version of Showgirls. But I was obsessed with the concept of being an entertainer, really, and doing so through my sport. So yeah, so that's a fun little story for you. But I do want to go back to that thought, though, of what I just mentioned about how youth athletics and what it can do, what the challenge and really the concept of youth athletics, what that can do to help develop an individual and for them to move through and grow and mature in ways that someone may not otherwise have that exposure to do so if they weren't put through situations and challenges that are very strategically provided for them through sport or through an athletic endeavor in some way. Not even if it's, specifically a sport, it could be another competitive avenue, like something with music, for instance, or art, or something where there is a structure around having a goal and moving towards that goal and putting in the work and applying yourself throughout the process and trusting that there is a process in order to then see the goal. I think that entire structure is so meaningful and so useful, and I don't think it gets enough attention, at least not the attention that it needs to have. And I think this is probably just a little bit of an old school mentality, but I do think that a lot more of us in general would be that much more resilient and more a stronger work ethic and ability to overcome stressors and a greater sense of resiliency against challenges if we were in fact faced with that structure when we were young and when we were developing those neural pathways in our brain of how to view challenges, how to view stressors, how to view a goal, how to view work and work towards that goal. But that doesn't mean that if you weren't, playing sports as a kid, that you're just like unlucky and never going to be able to develop that skill, because you always have that ability to develop those neural pathways and to create that structure for yourself and that work ethic, that working towards a goal. You always have that ability at all times, no matter what age you are. So, but I do think that there is, I think, an added advantage to having that take place when you are younger, and that it just kind of sets a foundation, if anything, of how you view yourself and what is within your capacity to do or to take on, and what is maybe something that is like unrealistic or something, so I do think you have that ability to set that foundation when you are younger, though. So fun. I like to think about figure skating specifically in this way. And this is why I'm so obsessed with it. And I think that this sets figure skating apart from any other sport. And I will argue this to the end of the day that I don't think there's a single sport that has this type of effect on someone. So something cool about figure skating that I think challenges in a completely unique way. So there is a certain movement in figure skating. It's called the axel. And it is the most complicated movement to learn. When you're a figure skater that is learning and you're moving through those stages of development, so you have different stages of development that you're learning different skills and different maneuvers. And once you achieve one maneuver, then you can move on to the next. So it's these different, progression, really. And so the axel jump is one of the most, it is the most difficult maneuver for a skater to learn and to actually accomplish and achieve. And because of that, it becomes kind of this gate, the difference maker. It's the fork in the road for a lot of skaters that you may have been doing, you may have been skating for however many years up to that point, competing, doing shows, whatever. But when you get to that point and you're trying to learn the axel, it can really make or break your ability to continue on in the sport because it's so difficult. And so it challenges you in a way that it's not just physical. I mean, it's a very physically demanding and difficult maneuver. If you want to know about it, Google it. Google the axel and try to learn and understand the concept of when you're skating. So you're on ice, first of all. So let's clear this up. So you're on ice, which is already like dangerous. You're on not bare feet on ice, you're on blades on ice. A blade, an ice skating blade is not like a point. It's actually like 2 points, if you think of it like that. I don't know how else to describe the bottom of a blade, but it has like a slight arch. So there's actually 2 edges to the blade. And so when you're skating, you're not on even of both of those edges. You're leaning slightly to one edge. So you're not only on ice, which is dangerous, and you're not only on blades, which is dangerous, but you're on one edge of a blade, which is that much more difficult. So just think of that first of all. And now on top of all that, you take off from the ice. You actually propel yourself into the air off of that one edge of a blade, off of the ice, and you have to spin 1.5 times in the air, and you have to do it so in a way, you're transitioning your legs in a way, and you're tucking your arms in, and you have to do it in a way so that when you land, you're facing the opposite direction that you took off, and you're landing on the opposite blade, on the opposite edge of the blade. So if that sounds complicated, it's because it is complicated. But so everything about the axle is so difficult to learn, difficult to pull off, and difficult just to try to make sense of it. But so here's the thing, and this is what I think sets it apart from any other sport. The only way that you will learn it is by doing it. And the only way that you will ever accomplish it and succeed and actually land it is because you have attempted it enough times and you have fallen enough times that you eventually learned how to not fall. So I'm going to say that again because I think this is like key. So learning the axle, every time that you make an attempt, you will fall. You will. You have to fall because you haven't yet learned how to land it. You haven't yet learned how to not fall. So instead, your default, every single time that you take off and make that attempt, you're going to fall. And when you fall on ice, it hurts. So you're doing this, it's a little masochistic in a way. It's like, it's going to hurt. You're going to fall. But this, I think, like I said, this sets figure skating apart from any other sport because I don't think anything else has this really the psychological trigger of recognizing that failure is inevitable, that failure is part of the process, and that the only way that you will ever achieve that goal that you want to land that axle is because you have given attempts over and over, knowing that you're failing and failure is part of the process, and you have failed enough times that you learned how to not fail. You have fallen enough times until you have learned how to not fall. But even then, even as much as you may push forward and continue to train, continue to take attempts and fail and learn from those failures, and then continue to go back and try it again, even then, when you get that first axle, you land it, you've made that accomplishment, you've done everything you need to do to know how to not fall, to know how to not fail, you still have to repeat that every single time that you make an attempt at that axle. You still are not guaranteed ever to continue to land it every time you attempt it. Just because you got it once doesn't mean you will ever get it again. There is such a higher degree of, I think, psychological conditioning in that sport that sets apart from anything else, that establishes for someone, especially for someone who is a youth athlete, someone who is learning about challenges, learning about goals and what it means to work towards a goal. There is something so powerful in guiding a young individual to recognize that a goal is it's not an automatic achievement. That achieving that goal once means nothing for the next time you attempt that goal. That working towards that goal means that failure is part of the process, but that every time you fail, you are learning something about how to not fail again the next time. Oh my God, I cannot say enough how how important I think this type of approach, this type of structure, even though it's dangerous. It's not like you're not wearing a helmet or pads or anything. Like you're literally falling on ice, bare bones and all. Like it's dangerous. But it just plants a seed that I don't think anything else can do when it comes to establishing that work ethic and establishing that perspective of working towards a goal, and the fact that you're not entitled to ever achieving a goal just because you work towards it, first of all. But that even then, achieving a goal means nothing about repeating and repeatedly achieving that goal. Yeah. So I cannot say enough about that. So going back to what I said, so that learning the axle is like the difference maker between who continues on and who basically doesn't, because it's not just that it's physical and it physically hurts to continue to try and attempt this thing that you have to fall. And it hurts when you fall on ice. It really does. And it hurts the ego when you fall repeatedly. And especially if you're going at it for months or years, it hurts. it's really difficult to continue to get up and continue to push forward and move on and continue to try again and again. So it's a major difference maker in who continues on and who doesn't. Now, if you're wondering if I ever landed it, I didn't. So I'll just say right there, I did not land it. So I gave it solid attempts it was at least a year and a half, if not close to 2 years by the time that I was done. But I was also 14 and had a whole world of other things that I wanted to do. So my dreams of being a showgirl on the ice kind of got cut short at 14. But yeah, so even though I didn't continue on the sport, and even though it was because of the axle that I didn't continue on the sport, you better believe that I carry that with me all the time because I love that sport, and I wish that I had the ability to overcome that challenge and to continue on. But there's only so much that you can do, like especially when you're 14 and you all of a sudden go through puberty and you realize that you're like not built to be a competitive figure skater. So I was like, yeah, my showgirl dreams are over. But I carry with me at least the psychological conditioning from that entire structure that I had as a kid. And I still, to this day, every time that I see and recognize a goal or challenge ahead of me, it triggers that exact thing that, like, you know what, I was made to do this. Like I put myself in a position to be able to do this because I trained myself to view this as such. So if anything, hopefully a little takeaway for you guys is to view youth sports, first of all, as that opportunity to start planting that seed and start helping to condition those neural pathways in populations that need that guidance. They need that structure and they need that perspective of what it means to put forth effort towards something continually and to trust and to build trust in themselves, that no matter how many failures that they have faced, that they still have the ability to continue to stand up and do it again. So that structure, I think, needs to become part of just the everyday youth life, first of all. But on top of that it doesn't have to be any one particular sport or hobby or experience, that it really you can instill that type of structure and that type of goal setting and mindset towards goal setting really in any way, as long as you're viewing it as such. And as long as you're viewing it as there are healthy challenges that we can face on a regular basis, and we have to continue to tap into what it is that we want to accomplish and why we want to accomplish it, and be comfortable facing those failures because they happen. They are part of the experience. They're part of the process, but that we learn from them and that eventually we learn how to not fail. So hopefully that triggered some minds. And I really hope someone leave a comment, please, that you decide to take up some figure skating lessons because of this, because you realized like that you needed an extra challenge in your life and you weren't afraid to fall. All right. Take care, everyone.